Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Emotional Intelligence Virtual Workshop. And I just wanted to start off by saying a big welcome, and wherever you are around our world, it's just a privilege and a pleasure for me to have you guys here. Now, just to introduce myself briefly, my name is Jono Elliot, and I'm founder of Team Improve Us. And if you do want to learn a little bit more about what I do, then head over to teamimproveus.net, and you can figure out all the different facets of my work. But the main point that I wanted to share with you guys is my mission. And that mission is to help you improve. Help you improve as an individual, as a team, as an organization, in whatever way that makes sense. And that brings us specifically to today and the objectives of today. And so really just want to help you improve in the realm of emotional intelligence. And so the first objective is just to get an introduction to emotional intelligence. And it's just the tip of the iceberg here today, just scratching the surface, having a quick introduction to what emotional intelligence is. Then we're going to specifically look at different tools for improving our emotional intelligence. And specifically the two tools that we'll look at is emotional vocabulary and an emotional journal. And for this workshop, what you're going to need is a pen and paper. So if you don't have a pen and paper, then do go ahead right now, pause the video, and come back when you have a pen and paper. Brilliant. So welcome back to anybody that went and got a pen and paper, and that's brilliant. We are going to have some exercises and some tools. We'll need to write some stuff down, have some questions, reflect. So that's why we need that pen and paper. And on that note, very much just wanted to say that the more you put into this, the more you get out. So when you do have those opportunities to reflect, to do those exercises, to think down some different emotions that you're having right now, take the time to do that. Pause the video if you need to. I'll give you guys space in the workshop as well. But I just wanted to say the more you put in, the more you get out of this exercise in this workshop. So we're going to get started with a little game that we're going to just kick us off to get our brains rolling here, our brains in gear. So what you need to do is to decipher the messages, decipher the clues that I laid out for you guys. And each question that I have will be 45 seconds, so each stage is 45 seconds. And you can see here I've laid out an example for you guys. So what is this sentence? And you can see the first question here is what is this? And you can see it's an I. And the second question is what is this container? And it is a can. And then you see that I laid out the answer here, I can. And really, that's what I wanted to tell you guys as you go into this game. You can do this. It's no big deal. It's just a little way to get our brains in gear, get us a little bit of exercise as we get going. So I'm getting out my timer right now, and we're going to count us in as we go. So pen and paper is ready, mind engaged. Let's see if you guys can solve the clues. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bingo. So what is this sentence? And then these three questions will lead you to that answer. Excellent. On to the next one. Brilliant. Okay, last one. Find that emoji. See if you can find that emoji. And that is time up. Well done. Thank you, everyone, for diving into that game. Brilliant, excellent, wonderful. And now I'm just going to reveal the answer to you guys now. So, if you succeeded in finding the right answers, here is what you were supposed to get. You are amazing, number one, and a big smile. And again, that's what I want to say to you guys. You're amazing. Thank you for being here. Number one in my books for wanting to learn about emotional intelligence. And just, you guys have earned a gigantic smile. So well done, and let's crack on with our session today. So what I'd like you to do now is just reflect back on your experience during that game. And just take a minute to jot this down, answer this question. What emotion or emotions were you feeling during that game? So please just reflect on that, write that down on your piece of paper, or just think it through in your head. What emotion or emotions were you feeling during that game? Brilliant. And then continuing on this same vein of questions, what emotion or emotions are you feeling right now? So now that the game is over, but also just thinking about your day, about your week, just what's on your plate right now, what emotion or emotions are you feeling right now? Brilliant. And what emotion or emotions would you like to feel when you wake up tomorrow? And it's about looking ahead, looking towards the future. What emotion or emotions would you like to feel when you wake up tomorrow? Excellent. And then the last question here is, what emotion or emotions do you see in me? Have you seen in me throughout this workshop and and right now? What emotions or emotions do you see in me? Let me actually do also a little bit of acting. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Brilliant. So thank you for diving into those questions. Now, I'm not sure if you were able to recognize the pattern of what those questions were, but the first one is, when we think about the foundations of emotional intelligence, we want to know the emotions in ourselves. And we want to know our emotions in ourselves in the past, in the present, and looking ahead towards the future. So knowing our emotions, what we felt during that game, having an idea of what were the emotions that we have right now in the present. So you guys did that as well. What are you feeling right now in terms of your day, in terms of your week, in terms of finishing that game? We want to really be able to say, okay, yeah, this is what I'm feeling. These are the emotions I'm having right in real time. To be able to clock that as you go. And then also looking ahead towards the future and say, what emotions would I like to feel in a certain situations as you wake up tomorrow, as you go into an interview, as you go into an exam, as you go into a dinner with your in-laws, whatever that is. So that's the first one. The first foundation of emotional intelligence is knowing your emotions in yourself, knowing your emotions in the past, having an idea of the emotions in the present and what you'd like to have in the future. Excellent. And then the second one is understanding the emotions in others. And you guys, again, practice that with me, having an idea of the emotions I was feeling. And that's where that empathy comes in, being able to connect to the emotions of others. And also understanding their perspective. Where do they come from? What is their background? How do they see the world? And then the final element is being able to express emotions. And again, you guys already practiced that. You were writing them down as you went. But also you want to be able to speak them out. When we think about emotional intelligence, we want to be able to speak our emotions out to others. And so to speak them out, to write them, but also have an idea in our body language. Brilliant. So that is the foundations of emotional intelligence, just right at the core. Knowing the emotions in yourselves and us, having an understanding, an idea of the emotions in others, and then being able to express our emotions. And express them to ourselves, and then also express them to others. And so for me, just reflecting on that and just practicing this, practice what I'm preaching, during that game, I was feeling curious, actually, if it could pan out in this virtual format like this. and also just content and a little bit proud of the different little exercises and brain teasers I got there. And I get back to that curiosity about that Halo one, if you guys got all the way down to the end of that and figured out if you got the actual answers right. And then right now, I'm excited. I'm excited for the rest of the session. Excited that you guys are here on the other side of the screen. And there we go. That was, and then in the future, looking ahead, I would say I do have a busy day tomorrow. So I'd love to wake up focused and calm as well, and just ready to go and to be productive in that day. Now what we're going to do is we're going to just jump into a quick video together as to say, well, why do I practice emotional intelligence? Why am I still on this journey so much to improve my emotional intelligence? And why am I teaching it to you guys? Brilliant. So settle back into your chair and let's dive in.
เขาจะได้อะไรถ้าเขาทำแบบนี้ทุกวันเขาจะไม่ได้อะไรเลยไม่ได้รวยขึ้นไม่ได้ออกทีวีไม่มีใครรู้จักไม่ได้มีชื่อเสียงที่มากขึ้นเพราะสิ่งที่เขาได้คือได้แค่ความรู้สึกได้เห็นความสุขได้เข้าใจได้ความรักได้ในสิ่งที่เงินซื้อไม่ได้ได้โลกที่สวยงามกว่าเดิมในชีวิตคุณอะไรคือสิ่งที่คุณต้องการมากที่สุด
Wonderful. A beautiful little video. So I know you already got this from the film, from that little clip there, but why emotional intelligence? Well, firstly, just for the emotions, for that life full of vibrancy and color. And life isn't all just, up here, but, there's the ups and the downs, but it's having those emotions in there that brings us that color and that life and that vibrancy that we have. But also you saw in the video as well why emotional intelligence will to build those relationships, those deep and meaningful relationships. And that's what you guys can have, and you do have in your lives as well. But learning this emotional intelligence can also help create that, those meaningful and those deep, trusting relationships that we can treasure. And then also for that self-understanding. And you guys saw in the video as how some of the vendors were shaking their heads and saying, well, why are you doing this? Why are you giving that money? But knowing ourselves, having that emotional intelligence, knowing our emotions, it really allows us to be confident and authentic in ourselves, to be able to choose what we want to do. And so and those are just some of the points, some of the reasons why I'm on this journey myself, to really understand my emotional intelligence, have this life full of emotions, that emotional awareness in me, but then also build those relationships and understand myself and to really know that. Brilliant. But it begs the question of, okay, well, how do we practice emotional intelligence? How do we improve our emotional intelligence? And so we're going to look at two different tools. First is emotional vocabulary, and then an emotional journal. So those are the tools we're going to look at in the remainder of the session today. But before we dive into this, when we think about learning emotional intelligence, we're learning a language. We're trying to build up our literacy in emotional intelligence. We're trying to become fluent in the language of emotions, and that's really what we're after here. And it's the same thing with when we're thinking about learning French or Swahili or Mandarin or Hebrew, whatever language we're trying to learn. We want to become fluent in it, and we want to understand the depth and the nuance and the color and the richness and the texture of that culture, of that communication, and understand the jokes and the little bits that when we do have that fluency, we can really understand a lot more of that culture and that context and those people. And the same applies for emotional intelligence. We want to have that nuance. We want to have that depth. We want to have that understanding of emotions in ourselves and in others and in the world around us. Excellent. So we're going to start with the tool emotional vocabulary. So again, a little exercise here. What we're going to do is we're going to write down as many emotions as we can in 2 minutes. And feel free to do this in any language that you want, and then we'll debrief this game afterwards. So just getting my pen and paper ready. So counting down, pen and paper ready. 3, 2, 1, let's go. That's us done. Okay, so that was 2 minutes all wrapped up. So thank you again for diving into that. What I'd like you guys to do next is count up your emotions. So looking at that sheet, just count up how many emotions you had on it. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for diving into that exercise. Absolutely wonderful. So now to debrief the game. The first thing that you need to know is it doesn't matter how many emotions you wrote on your sheet. What is important for me when I coach on emotional intelligence and when I work on this is that we can use that as a starting point. We can say, okay, I started off with 5 emotions, 10 emotions, 15 emotions, 20 emotions, 40 emotions on your sheet, whatever that is. But what is important is saying, okay, that's where I started in those 2 minutes, and every day I'd like to add 2 more to it. And so for 30 days, just add 2 emotions to that and build up that database, that repertoire of emotions, that vocabulary. Brilliant. And the reason that we do this game is so that we can name our emotions. And we want to name our emotions so that we can have that emotional awareness within us, and we can be able to express our emotions to others and to people that we're in those relationships with. And so that when we think about that analogy again of learning a language, we want to build up our vocabulary so that we can communicate, we can have that dialogue. And again, another analogy that I like to use here is going to a concert and imagining that we have all of these, this noise that's out there that we can hear. And oftentimes it feels like it just comes together in a cloud, in just a big mess. But really what we want to be able to do is be able to understand, listen to the guitar or hear the harmonica. And so when we're applying that to emotional intelligence, again, we can have this big cloud within us of all this mixture of emotions. And what we want to be able to do is to be able to pick those out, to understand the different nuances in there and say exactly, I'm feeling frustrated right now. I'm feeling a little bit annoyed about where I am with this, with a camera and making sure that you guys can see me all right with the light streaming in behind me. And just be able to say specifically, okay, this is what I'm feeling. To have that awareness within us, and then also to be able to express that to others. And to be able to express that authentically and clearly and say, yeah, this is specifically what I'm feeling, instead of just covering it up in a blanket emotion. And so that's why we dive into this emotional vocabulary, so that we can build up our ability to communicate and be aware of our emotions and express that to others. And I just wanted to add a couple of extra emotions to add to your repertoire, to your database of emotions, and just give you two extra emotions for today. So I'll just read off a couple of them. I know you saw them as they came up, but the first one, which you can see up at the top there, a one book, the inertia and distraction caused by guests leaving. Amazing, an amazing emotion. Or basorexia, which you can see right here. The sudden urge to kiss someone. Again, amazing emotion. Or Tosca, just a little bit further along there, is a longing with nothing to long for. It's a Russian emotion. Just feel that for a second there. Tosca. It's feeling a longing with nothing to long for. Brilliant. And so when I set off to learn about emotional intelligence and improve my emotional intelligence, this is what I did. And when I started, I knew maximum 10 emotions, and that wasn't even in 2 minutes. I didn't know my emotions at all. I wasn't aware of my emotions. I wasn't able to express my emotions, but I set off to practice and improve. So every morning I would spend 5 minutes just studying this emotion wheel, or an emotion wheel. There's some on my site if you want to find them there, or just Google them online. Perfect. So I'd study those, and then I would flip that page over, and then I would just try and write down as many emotions as I could. And you can see that in that option there, just a blank one. Again, you can find this on my site if you want to practice it. And that's how I improve my emotional intelligence, so that I can really have a better understanding of what I'm feeling and have that nuance to piece out that cloud that's within me, and to be able to say, yeah, this is the specifics of what I'm feeling. Brilliant. So on to the second tool that we're going to look at today, and it's the emotional journal. And I'm going to whip you through the instructions, and then I'll give you an example for one of mine, and then you'll have the opportunity to do this on your own. So firstly, the first step is just to think of emotion. Think of an emotion that you had today, if it's at the end of your day, yesterday, this week, the month, any emotion that you're curious about and that you want to learn more about. And then we ask, well, why did we have this emotion? And we're trying to understand what was the lead up to it. Who was involved? Where were you? What was the situation? What was the context? And really trying to understand everything that led you to have that emotion. And then the following up from that one is saying, okay, well, what were the outcomes? What were the consequences of this? What did it make you think? What did it make you do? What were the behaviors that you had afterwards? And did it lead to any other emotions? Excellent. So just trying to think that through as much as you can and really understand, okay, well, what came as a result of that emotion? And hand in hand with that is saying, okay, what were the physiological reactions? What did you notice in your body? And for example, if you're exhilarated or something like that, and you're just walking back after a first date that went really well, and you're feeling bouncy, you're feeling light as air, and you're walking on the tips of your toes, that's what I'm thinking about. Anything that you can recognize in your body. And then finally, what I like to do always when I finish a reflection is saying, well, would you do anything differently next time? Is there anything I would do differently next time? Anything I'd like to change, either in the build up to it, so in that point number 2, in that situation or the context, anything that you could have changed differently, or in point number 3, is there anything that you could have changed in how you reacted to this and the consequences of it? Brilliant. And of course, there are some instances where it's absolutely perfect where it was, and that situation, that emotion that you felt, that's exactly what you want to have next time. And so that begs the question, it leads to the question of how can you orchestrate that situation again? And I did this on a 30-day challenge, so I like to do a 30-day challenge to just embed the habit in me and say, okay, really use that skill, build up that skill so I can have it in my toolkit. Now, this is my example, but before we dive into mine, the reason that we do this is the exact same as that emotional vocabulary. To build up that awareness in ourselves, what emotions are we feeling? Why did we feel those emotions? What was the build up to it? What was the consequences to it? Then also to be able to express our emotions. Express our emotions to ourselves by writing it down, but then also to build up to be able to express our emotions to others. And all of that together leads to our emotional intelligence, to be able to use our emotions effectively and not have our emotions control us, but to be able to say, yes, this is what my emotions are telling me, and how can I use that in my life very effectively? Brilliant. So, firstly, again, I was doing this 30-day challenge. So this was last July 2019. And so I was doing it daily. And then the emotion I was curious about that day was agitated. I was doing this at the end of my day, so I was looking back on my day. And I wanted to explore this emotion of agitated. And then I went into understanding, well, why did I have that emotion? And as you can see here, I was eager to get to work, but I was stuck in the hospital with my grandmother, of course, yes. So she'd had a fall, which wasn't ideal. But it was just a routine checkup. We went into the hospital, and it was supposed to take an hour or an hour and a half, but it took a lot longer than that, about 3 or 4 hours, if my memory is correct. So that's why I was feeling agitated, because I was stuck in the hospital there, and we didn't know how long it's going to take. So then the outcomes, what happened as a result of it, is it caused distraction. I wasn't present. I wanted to be somewhere else. I wanted to get working. I had this pent-up energy, feeling like I need to get going. I need to get to my work. And then also I was frustrated at the reception as well. So that emotion, agitated, also very much hand in hand with that, frustrated towards the reception. And then looking at the physiological reactions, for me, when I am feeling agitated, I have that tight shoulders. So it's, again, building up that awareness, understanding why I was having this in my body, but also on the other way, if you feel that in your body, you can say, well, maybe I'm feeling agitated, I'm feeling the pressure, I'm feeling the stress, so on and so forth. And then finally, finishing up, was there anything I could have done differently if I was in that situation again? And absolutely, I could have taken work with me, or I could have spoken to reception earlier. So again, just little actions that I could have done differently, just to build that awareness and understand what I could do going ahead. Excellent. So now, handing it back over to you guys, this is your turn to give it a go. So what I'd like you guys to do now is just pause your video and take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you guys need to think of an emotion, understand it, understand the lead up to it, understand the outcomes and the consequences. What were you feeling in your body? And is there anything you could have done differently? Brilliant. So I'm going to stop there and let you guys dive into this on your own. Awesome. Welcome back, and thank you for diving into that emotional journal. And if you do want to do that on a daily basis, that's how I build that up, so you can have that in your toolkit. Now, I just want to do a final point on why we're building up those tools, that emotional vocabulary and that emotional journal, is to have this skill of emotional intelligence, of dialogue, of awareness and expression. And so it's really, what we want to do here when we're thinking about emotional intelligence is to have that dialogue between what we're aware of, what we're thinking about, and what we're unaware of. And to have that awareness within us and that expression, that communication. So let me walk you through this model here so that can become a little bit clearer of what this skill of emotional intelligence is. So firstly, that sphere that you can see over on the side there, that darker shade, is what we're aware of. This is what we're thinking about. Rational, cognitive are the different terms for it. And it's just everything that we're thinking about. And then we have everything that's within us, that subcognition, as you can see. But I just like to simplify it and just say this is everything that we're unaware of. And again, going back to that analogy that we had earlier, it's that noise, it's that cloud of emotions that we have. And I've just put emotions on this model, but this could also be, it's also your values, your needs, all of that swirling current of unknown that we have within us, but we're not always aware of. And specifically thinking about emotions, you can see that they're all jumping around down there. They're trying to communicate to us. They want to tell us things. They want to be clear, and they want to say, yeah, this is me, and they want to be expressed. We don't want to have just a buildup of emotions, of that pressure of emotions trying to get out. Trying to speak and say, yeah, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling stressed. That can lead to burnout, can lead to anger, whatever it is. We want to have that dialogue. We want to have that communication between what we're aware of and what we're unaware of. Between ourselves and our emotions. And so that's the skill of emotional intelligence. To have that dialogue, to have that emotional awareness, to have that emotional expression, so that we can really understand what our emotions are telling us and how to use them effectively in our lives. And this is so that we don't have our emotions controlling us, our emotions dictating what we do, but so that we can understand what our emotions are telling us and we can use those effectively to build up a life of our choosing, a life rich with color, a life with deep and meaningful connections, and a life where we're confident and we're authentic in ourselves. Brilliant. So I'll leave it there. And just to summarize what we learned today, firstly, we had the foundation of emotional intelligence. And that is knowing our emotions in ourselves, having an idea of the emotions of others, and expressing our emotions, both to ourselves and to those people that you're in relationship with. And again, going back to why emotional intelligence, well, to have that life full of vibrancy, of color, and to have those deep and meaningful relationships where you can really treasure them and be authentic. And then again, building that last point, understanding ourselves. Being authentic in ourselves, being confident in ourselves, knowing who we are, knowing what we're feeling, so that we can really understand, yes, this is what we're doing, and build a lives where you can be effective. We can build lives that suit you, suit your environment, that you have actually built up. And then how do we improve this? Well, again, we're trying to become fluent in the language of emotions. We want to build up our literacy and really figure out, okay, how can I understand the nuance and the depth that we have? And 2 tools that I've told you, and feel free to go onto my site to learn a couple more, but just emotional vocabulary, learning how to name our emotions, to really say, yeah, this is what I'm feeling, to parse out those different ones, and to say, thank you guys for being here, and just feeling a bit of delight, and again, excitement, and enthusiasm for you guys to go out and practice this in your own lives. Then again, that emotional journal, where we can understand why we had those emotions, that build up to it, the reactions, the consequences, the outcome of those emotions, the physiological reactions in us. So those are 2 tools that you guys can practice right away as you go ahead to learn more about emotional intelligence. And I want to wrap up by just saying thank you. Thank you for being there. Thank you for being on the other side of the screen. Thank you just for being yourselves, for spreading kindness around your communities, for wanting to improve emotional intelligence. And just, here's me wishing you a wonderful day. Toodle pip. Have fun and happy improving.